My name is Kyle Royer.
Oh, it's hot. It's really hot.
And I'm making my second ever sword named Excelsior.
It's even more steel than I used on my first sword.
So let's embark together on this epic edged adventure. In this video, we're gonna fit this guard onto this sword blade. I was just kidding, we're just gonna use a piece of this off the end of the steel, not the whole thing. I went ahead and did all the hand sanding on the blade that we're gonna do right now. I've got the fuller up to 600 grit, and I've got the blade bevels up to 320. I also did a little shaping and tapering to the tang in order to get it ready for our guard fit up. So basically all we've got going on is a little bit of a taper right here by the ricasso, and then it kind of dramatically tapers down here, and then it just kind of flattens out, and that'll just help with the guard fit up. I also hand sanded the entire ricasso area to 1500 grit. I like to have that area finished up before I start fitting the guard. As far as hand sanding the rest of the blade, we'll leave it at this stage until we get pretty much the rest of the handle done and the scabbard made. And then all the way towards the very end of the project, we'll come in and get the whole blade up to 1500 grit and get the damascus etched. All of Excelsior's fittings are gonna be made out of 1018 steel, and then we're gonna do a lot of gold inlay on the fittings, and then they're also gonna be gun blued to have my beautiful black mirror finish on them. So to start out with the guard, we need a pretty good sized chunk of steel. I'm gonna forge it a little bit to shape, but it's mostly gonna be ground to shape. So I've got a piece of 2.5 inch wide by 1 inch thick 1018 steel here, and I've went ahead and marked out a line down the center about 9 inches long, and we're gonna cut out this big chunk right here, and this will become the guard. It's a little bit longer than we need, a little wider, a little thicker, leaving lots of room for grinding and shaping and everything. Don't want to cut anything too close. I'm going to change the blade on the bandsaw, and then we'll start making this long 9-inch cut here and get our guard piece cut out of this ginormous stock. We got a little pattern made of the guard, and I'm just gonna outline around the pattern onto my anvil, just so we can forge that piece of metal that's gonna be the guard. We need to forge the lugs down a little bit, and I want something to go by just to make sure I get them forged down far enough. This doesn't need to be super accurate, I just need a general representation of what the guard is. An upgrade would be maybe a steel pattern or something like that. That'd be really nice, because then you could hold it right up to your hot metal. But this doesn't really matter because our metal's very thick, so we have a lot of wiggle room. It's definitely not worth making a whole nother steel pattern. There we go. I can now use the torch and heat up the ends of that guard and forge them down this way. Even though we cut this out of that giant bar stock, it's still pretty heavy. I'm kind of curious how much it weighs and how much metal we're actually gonna remove from it. Right now, I'm pretty sure this thing's heavier than the sword. The sword is 2 pounds and like 6 ounces. Yeah, this thing's 3 pounds, 6 ounces. Let's light this bad boy up. We've got a brand new tip on here. Ooh, that is creamy. The other tip I've had on this torch for like 8 years was completely smashed. I think it got dropped on the floor one too many times. I heated the entire guard up, and I'm gonna just stick it in the heat treating oven and let it cool down slowly. There's not a lot of carbon in here, but there is a little bit, so I wanna make sure that this piece comes out nice and soft, because we're gonna have to do a lot of grinding and a lot of work to it, and especially the gold inlay later on with the engraving stuff. So I want the guard good and soft. I think it's time for a coffee break. Oh, not again, it's all gone. That won't do. Huh. Coffee break. Oh, fresh coffee's back on the menu, boys. After the guard's done cooling down in the heat treating oven, we can start hacking, slashing, milling, cutting, and grinding it to shape. We're gonna get it profiled a little bit before we fit it onto the sword blade. I let my guard down, cool down rather, in the heat treating oven until it was about room temperature, and then I went ahead and milled some flat sides on it, because you guys know how I love some flat bases to work off of. So I milled the sides of the guard flat, because after forging that down, it kind of got all puckered up and everything from the forging process. I surface ground the back of it. I ground a little flat spot in here. And I also went over to the 2x72 and removed a big old chunk of metal right in here on each side to start profiling in the guard. I've got it kind of roughly profiled inside of here. Now I need to set up my grinder to become a horizontal grinder, except it doesn't go horizontal. So I need to set up the round wheel with a makeshift backer that I can hold this squarely against. And it's gonna be all kind of vertical as we go, but if I set it up just right, it should work exactly like a horizontal grinder. It'll just be a little bit more setup work. I know I could make a really nice backrest that bolts right on. In fact, we need to do that sometime. Either that and or get a actual horizontal with a rest that's made to go horizontal as well. Let's get this all set up and get this profile cleaned up. We'll pop the light off. I'm gonna change out the flat platen attachment. That thing is heavy. I think I'm gonna be using the 2-inch diameter round wheel for this, because it should be just about the right diameter. Yeah, anything larger, it's gonna be too large. A little bit janky, but it should work as long as I can get it clamped up. That'll go on there, something like this. And I'll go grab a square. We need to make sure that when I'm grinding on here, that the guard sits nice and squarely. So it'll leave a square finish on the guard. And the way you can adjust that, it's really hard to adjust this janky clamped stuff, but what you can do is unbolt this whole round wheel attachment. There's a little bit of wiggle room in it, so you can tweak it one way or the other and get it square right here. I'm gonna go ahead and change the speed to medium speed, the old 3-step pulley. So the general idea is I'll get a chair over here. If this was a horizontal grinder, all this stuff would be flipped up and I'd be able to just sit here and grind down to my line. You can still do the same thing, only I'll be sitting on a chair and we're just gonna come in here. I can angle this differently, get it wherever I need it. So I'll angle it forward a little bit, and then I can come in here and grind down to my line. Come in here and grind down to my line again. And since the sides of this are milled square, everything should sit nice and square once I make sure that this wheel is square with the rest that I put up here. The lines that I put on here are just a quick reference to get me close. They're from a plastic cutout I made, which was traced over my sketch, but all that sketch isn't perfectly accurate. In order to get everything fine-tuned, I'll take it over to paper and we'll draw a line around the profile, flip it over, and then see how it matches up and just adjust it like that. Just like I do with dagger blades, and I did it with the sword blade, and anytime I need to check if something like this is symmetrical, it's really easy to do it with that paper. Then you'll know where there's high spots, you can come in and trim away different areas until it's perfectly symmetrical on each side. So it looks like I need to square this wheel up a little bit. It's angled to one side just a little bit. I suspect once I get the wheel square to the rest, I'll still have to adjust it a little bit because I imagine as I grind, I'll probably put a little English or pressure one way or the other, and it might not sit perfectly flat because of the burr that kind of forms on there as I grind. So I may have to actually get the wheel out of square in order to actually be making it square with the piece. Got the entire guard profiled as far as I'm gonna take it for now. It's ready to move on to fitting onto the sword blade. You saw me using the wanky sideways backer so I could profile all this inside part. I did all that, and then I just used the regular platen to profile the back part of the guard. I'm gonna leave the tips alone for now because I've milled these flat areas on the tips, and it'll allow me to like put it on a granite surface and scribe lines and stuff. I like to leave some flat surfaces on there. So I'm gonna leave those areas on there and we'll shape the tips later. The next thing this guard is ready for is to be fit onto the blade of Excelsior. We need to accurately do a bunch of layout and then start milling and filing and fitting, and it's gonna be a difficult one to fit for sure because it's got this really sharp point right here. So there's gonna be a lot of metal that needs to fit up over the ricasso, nice and tight. Speaking of guards, if you wanna see exactly how I fit my guards step by step in detail alongside with me, then check out our online takedown Bowie knife course. It's on sale now through Labor Day, and it'll take you step by step on getting the perfect guard fit, along with the entire process of building your takedown buoy from start to finish. It's got over 14 hours of content, and we're really proud of this thing, and I hope it'll help you out a bunch, so check it out. The link is in the description. I will see you in the next video. May the forge be with you. Bye-bye.